I was that person who was anxious, overthinked and had trouble sleeping. I've now improved, but I want to be more calm and relaxed when I sleep. I'm sure you do too if you're watching this video. I will have practical tips at the end. Before we get into the tips, I want to share why I made this video. As I said, I sometimes struggle to sleep because of overthinking, but in general I'm very alert when I sleep, so it's difficult for me to sleep. I'm sure this is because of bad experiences I've had. I'm now going to share with you my past vulnerability. I have two stories for you to explain why I have trouble sleeping. The first one is about my childhood. As a kid, I was put into foster care. This is when you are given to a carer because your parents aren't able to look after you. I lived with an abusive carer. She was strict, controlling and tortured me and my siblings. She treated us badly and would punish us. It's ironic to think about as I was supposed to be put in a better place. But this environment made me become very alert to potential threat. So when I was supposed to be asleep, I would be aware of my surroundings, especially when I would hear the thudding up the stairs when she would get ready to sleep. I remember one event where I must have irritated her, unlikely, but she just wanted a reason to batter me, and I was asleep. And she was drunk and walked into my room and started pounding her fists into my body, and while she did this, I pretended to sleep. As time passed, we eventually snitched on her, but since then, I've adapted to be more alert when sleeping. I've improved more recently, but it's something I'm working on. I still think of the trauma till this day and ask myself why she was like this. I will never forgive her for all the terrible things she did, and the after effect she caused of messing up my mental health for years after. The second story is about my experience with ghosts. Living in the first house we lived in with my carer is where unusual things happened. One of the main ones was that when I slept inside the covers with my whole body and head in the covers. And when I would try sleeping, I would feel a light poking on the blanket, pressing in towards me. I would have to constantly push the blanket out that was pressing in on me. I got used to it after a while, but knew it wasn't normal. A event I remember vividly is a time I was sleeping and I had a nightmare of me and some people I knew crashing in a car into a wooden gate in the farmlands. As soon as the crash happened, I felt myself pulled upright in my bed. I was lying flat and I sat up. I'm not sure if this was caused by the nightmare, as the force I felt when sitting up didn't feel like I'd done it. Here I am making a video about how to sleep, but with what I'm speaking about, maybe I should title it How Not to Sleep. But seriously, don't be scared to sleep tonight. My story is just an odd case. Also, if you have any stories related to sleep you would like to share, I'd be interested, so leave it in the comments. So that's the reason why I made this video, as I want to help others who struggle with sleeping because it's important for productivity and health, as studies have shown that lack of sleep can cause a number of diseases. Also, the making of this video was valuable to me as it improved my understanding while researching and thinking of how I can relax to have a better quality of sleep. I hope it does the same for you. So there is ways to become relaxed and make it easier to fall asleep. The common ones we hear are deep breathing, meditation, progressive muscle relaxation, etc. These are great and can work for some. For me, meditation definitely makes me relaxed and be in the present, but I want to share a method that can also work. This one seems more logical and direct to me than some of the techniques I named, as you're basically transferring information from your mind onto paper, instead of focusing on where your attention is going, so you're more directly solving the problem. I named this one the journal technique. Use journaling as a place to contain what's in your mind. Release your thoughts and feelings onto the paper and transfer them out your mind to lower stress. An alternative I was going to mention was simply clearing your mind of thoughts you have and dealing with them at a more appropriate time, but this is more vague and doesn't have additional benefits that journaling has, which I'll explain now, but you can still try this method. So back to journaling. Journaling can be useful if you're worried you will forget something important, and it can stop the worrying from preventing you from sleeping. If you have important things to remember, write them onto a paper. This can make it easier to sleep as you don't have to worry about constantly thinking about things. Another more general benefit of journaling is that it helps you understand things happening in your life or your problems, as all the jumbled thoughts and emotions can be organized into sentences. This allows you to have more clarity, track what's happening, and find ways to deal with your problems. An example of how journaling helped me was a time when I had a lot of tasks to do and I was overwhelmed. I sat down and created a plan for how I was going to do everything, prioritizing the most important stuff. Another example is a time I felt anxious and stressed about recent events in my life. I sat down and wrote about the individual things. I read it and felt I understood myself and my life better and was able to choose the next steps for what needed to be done. So with journaling, use it to manage your mental health before sleep, but also use it in your everyday life. I'm now going to mention some more relaxation techniques if the one mentioned doesn't work, or if you just want to try something different. For these, I did some research and picked the most relevant ones. Number 1. Relaxing activities. Do things that allow yourself to relax before you go to sleep. This could be reading a book, taking a warm bath, or listening to soothing music. For me, ASMR helps me as the sounds give me a tingly sensation that help me relax, but this will require some experimentation to see what works for you. I can't just give you a list to try, as what works for me might not work for you, so think of activities you find relaxing and do them before bed, or if you don't have any, think of what relaxes you and create a list and test each one. Last one I have is deep breathing. I have a scientific explanation for the nerds. Just joking, I feel it may help you understand better. I'm about to become Andrew Huberman for this part. Deep breaths activate the parasympathetic nervous system and signal to the brain you're safe and calm. The function of the PNS is to allow relaxation, which can reduce stress and be helpful before sleeping. Also, the PNS is the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system, which is a state of alertness, also known as the fight or flight response. Think of it as having two different modes. And if you didn't know what the nervous system was, the nervous system is made of cells called neurons, which are connected together. They send information to the brain or spinal cord, also called the central nervous system, to generate responses to the environment. It can also send signals internally to control processes like heart rate, blood pressure, respiration, digestion, and sexual arousal. So it sends signals internally and externally. For example, if you was to touch something hot, the signal would be detected by the sensory neuron, which senses, and it will send a signal to the central nervous system to create a response. This signal would then be sent to the area that was in contact with the hot item, making you pull it away from the hot surface. Now we have an understanding relating to what we are speaking about. Neurons also transfer something called neurotransmitters around the body, which are basically chemicals. As we are speaking about emotions, the neurotransmitters that control mood are serotonin and dopamine. Serotonin and dopamine amounts changing in the body can affect mood. At normal levels, it allows you to be happier, but at lower levels, it can make you depressed, anxious, or make you feel other negative emotions. This is the case for OCD. Low levels of neurotransmitters, like serotonin, are associated with causing anxiety, guilt, distress, or other unpleasant emotions for OCD patients. The treatment for OCD is drug therapy by fixing what's wrong with the neurotransmitter levels, in this case increasing the serotonin levels. It helps improve a patient's mood, but it can be argued that the treatment doesn't actually help the obsessive thoughts or compulsive behavior OCD causes. Instead, it just makes a person feel more positive emotions. I'd love to hear other people's opinions about this. Let me know what you think in the comments. Sorry for getting so scientific. I thought it was worth explaining as it links to deep breathing. With a quick Google search, I was able to explain the link. Deep breathing does release feel-good hormones like dopamine and serotonin, and reduces cortisol, which is the stress hormone. There are also other activities that do the same, for example exercising, and I'm sure you could find loads on the internet, but I'm not exactly sure how this works, but something related to this must be happening to make you feel relaxed. I can't really say much more as I couldn't find anything. Back to deep breathing though. A practical way to do deep breathing is using the 4-7-8 breathing technique, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7 seconds, and breathe out for 8 seconds. You can try this or use your own version. That's the practical tips I have for you. Hopefully they are helpful and can help you enter a better relaxed mental state before sleep, so you don't have difficulty sleeping. If you have any questions or feedback, leave it in the comments, and besides that, have a good rest of your day.